Coming up, a special friendship with former Kentucky Governor Brereton Jones is remembered.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Former Governor Brereton Jones lied in state at the Kentucky Capitol today. We've told you in the last week about some of his most passionate causes, none more important than the equine industry. Tonight, Kelsey Soto has more on one of the charities he cared so much about.
When horses want to retire and spend their days on greener pastures, they go to live with Michael Blowen in Georgetown.
There was nobody ever in the history of the horse racing business in Kentucky that has meant more to these horses than Governor Jones.
Michael fondly remembers the time he sat down with the former governor when he first got an idea for Old Friends Farm.
You're going to get these horses, right? I go, yeah. And he says, you're going to bring some of them home from Japan. I go, yeah. And he goes, and you're not going to breed them? No. You're not going to sell them? No. And you're not going to race them? I go, no. He says, what exactly are you going to do? I said, well, I'm going to put them in my yard and hope people come visit.
Jones wrote a $5,000 check on the spot.
It was huge. It was the money, of course, because we needed the money badly. However, the idea that he did it, he wrote me the most wonderful note I've ever received.
Over the next 20 years, they formed a fast friendship.
All the problems that they're having in racing now with nobody cooperating with one another, they all would have been solved if he wasn't sick. Because he's the one person that could have brought everybody together, because everybody respected him, everybody adored him, and everybody knew he was really, really smart.
Michael and other dignitaries stood in line for hours at the Capitol on Monday to pay their respects. He says it was a remarkable moment of unity that could only be pulled off by Jones.
Huge loss. I think the loss of Governor Jones is the greatest loss in the history of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and their traditional horse racing.
In Georgetown, Kelsey Soto, WKYT.
Instead of flowers, the family suggests donations to Old Friends, Bluegrass Care Navigators, or Racetrack Chaplaincy of America. Governor Jones's funeral will be held tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Forks of the Elkhorn Baptist Church in Midway.
Well, the forecast tonight not looking too bad across the region, where things are calming down and cooling down across the area. Taking a look at downtown Hazard from Triangle Park, 59 already down that way. No traffic down there, so to speak. At this hour, we're going to continue to see those temperatures dropping. We're in the 50s in Clintwood, Wise, Jonesville, Hazard, and everybody else is still in the 60s at this hour. But again, changing pretty quickly. Already still in the 70s out there in Owensboro, Clarksville, and Nashville. 73 also in Louisville at this hour. But again, some concrete helping to hold in some of that heat out there. We're going to drop into the 50s by tomorrow morning. Partly to mostly cloudy skies, some patchy fog a possibility as you head out the door tomorrow morning. But the rain is on the way as we head deeper into tomorrow and tomorrow night and into Wednesday. The rest of that forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, thank you, Brandon. Lexington is coming off its deadliest weekend of the year. 3 people lost their lives to gun violence in a span of 24 hours. The 3 latest homicides happened from early Saturday morning to early Sunday morning. Early Saturday morning, police say 21-year-old Jacoby Williams shot and killed 18-year-old Demetrius Hampton on South Broadway. Police say Williams is still on the run and is considered armed and dangerous by police. Then police say Sammy Jonas shot and killed 23-year-old Christina Fikes before turning the gun on himself Saturday afternoon. And finally, police say 38-year-old Taiwan Pearson died at the hospital after being shot early Sunday morning on West Main Street. Some former tenants of Brian Carter have expressed concern about his not guilty plea today. Carter pleaded not guilty in Perry County to multiple charges after an apartment he owned caught fire in June. Tenants of 2 buildings, both of which were owned by Carter, were evacuated and they lost most of their belongings. Former tenant Gordon Fugit says he is struggling financially after the fire.
Monday it's easy, but the rest of the week it's kind of hard for me, and I don't think it's right. I'm going to do that.
Brian Carter's lawyer John Hanson told us he does not believe the charges have probable cause. Carter's pretrial date is set for October 31st. The Pike County Conservation District is asking folks to roll up with their unwanted appliances. The annual appliance buyback started today, opening specific county waste lots to pay people for bringing in old washers, dryers, stoves, and more. The goal is to incentivize properly disposing of large appliances, a partnership with Pike County Solid Waste that organizers say has already had an impact on illegal dumping.
But now it's getting a little better, and I just hope that people out there would want to keep their county clean.
The program continues through next Monday. You can find the locations on our website. One Harlan County elementary school is starting a new speech therapy service soon, coming up with an innovative way to fill a vacant spot. WYMT's Jack Dimler spoke to school officials about the new service.
After saying goodbye to one of their speech therapists following last school year, the Harlan County Board of Education worked to fill the vacancy.
So we looked for a person to fill the position with throughout all summer.
But when they couldn't fill it in time for the school year,
that was when we kind of started looking into other options.
That's when they looked to eLuma Online Therapy to provide students of Everett Elementary with a virtual option.
I'm really excited about the use of technology. I think it's important that we stay up front on the technology side of education. I'm really excited that we're able to do this for our students.
Despite the new style of service, Everett Elementary Principal Needham Saylor says the goal remains the same.
It would be no different than the in-person kids. You know, we're wanting to see them be able to grow and express their feelings and thoughts more clearly.
The first year of virtual speech therapy services will serve as a test to see how beneficial it is.
That's what we're trying to do now, is distinguish the difference, which kids that we think are better candidates for a virtual service.
And with virtual learning being prevalent during the COVID-19 pandemic, Saylor says he expects to see some kids thrive with the new services.
There's going to be some kids that this will be better for them than others. So, you know, I think it's going to be very targeted. Some kids will do really well with it, some may not.
Using technology to fill an urgent need. In Harlan County, Jack Demler, WYMT Mountain News.
Coote says there is still some work that needs to be done, but is hopeful that the services will begin this week. A judge dismissed most of a lawsuit filed by 5 UK football players against Lexington police. The case dates back to 2021 when police charged the group with burglary in connection to a fight at a frat party. Their lawyers argued the accusation damaged their careers and reputations, even though the charges were dropped. On Friday, a judge dismissed 5 of the lawsuit's 6 claims. A malicious prosecution claim against Lexington Detective Corey Vinlove can still move forward. We're working to find out more about a protest on UK's campus today. From what we are told, the protest seems to have targeted women, specifically women receiving a college education. One protester was seen wearing a shirt that read, "Women are property." It drew a counter-protest from students, and we were sent a video which appears to show a student being punched in the face. UK spokespeople sent us a statement saying they condemn the statements made by who they describe as visitors on campus. As the country careens toward a possible federal government shutdown later this week, folks are trying to assess the likely impact in Kentucky. It could impact more than 3.5 million government and military personnel around the country and potentially impact federal programs. In Washington, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has been urging fellow House Republicans against letting it happen, but he's been unable to get a vote to even consider a bill. Kentucky's senators are also divided. Republican leader Mitch McConnell is pressing for money to help Ukraine in its war with Russia. He also says shutdowns have not been good for Republicans historically. The state's junior GOP Senator Rand Paul says he will hold up a bill to stop a shutdown if it does contain aid to Ukraine. Unless Congress acts, the fiscal year ends and a shutdown could begin over the weekend. Some residents of the hardest hit part of Maui are finally being allowed to return to their properties in Lahaina more than a month after catastrophic wildfires destroyed the area and left at least 97 people dead. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti was back in the disaster zone today, along with families struggling to cope with their loss.
It's been nearly 7 weeks since residents in Lahaina's fire-ravaged disaster zone have been allowed to return home.
Pretty bad. After so many years of living here.
For many, like Noreen Wales and her granddaughter Tawny, to be back was overwhelming.
We need to see it in person. We need to go and stand on our property and see, what's left and process that.
At least a dozen people returned home today, many discovering scenes like this. But they were the lucky ones. We're told at least one person in the neighborhood was unable to escape the flames alive.
Chuck Hogan's home survived.
Sorry, I get a little choked up sometimes about it.
Yeah, I understand.
Just because it's just so horrible. And the fact that I made it is, just the luck, the way the wind was blowing, basically.
Hogan, a contractor by trade, estimates it will take at least a decade to rebuild the town. Pablo Pegdillo III, among the names added to the long row of crosses, each one a family member lost in the fire. Pegdillo, who was partially paralyzed, died while trying to flee the fire by car with his wife Nelda. The flames blocked their exit on Front Street, and Nelda couldn't carry her husband over the seawall to safety.
Unfortunately, the fire got really close, and my grandma did whatever she could. She did not give up. But my grandpa told her, go, just leave me. Just go find the family, go take care of yourself and them.
Heartbreak and a long road to recovery ahead. Officials say it could take a year to remove all of the rubble alone, 700,000 tons. And to give you some perspective, that's about half the amount removed from the World Trade Center site after 9/11. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News, Lahaina.
Long. Coming up, it might not be long before you can finally watch new late-night talk shows.
And we'll stay dry most of tonight and much of tomorrow before some much-needed rain moves in as early as Tuesday night. The latest forecast in a few minutes.